Now we are going to talk about ethers. Ethers are organic compounds where the two bonds of the oxygen atom is by carbons. Okay. So in water it is HOH, here it is COC. So this bond is the speciality of ethers. And ether, because the two alkyl groups are bulky, there is bond pair repulsion, the angle is 111 degree. Now when we examine the case of ether, the most interesting thing that we must first know is ether for naming purpose is not treated as a functionality. So in this it is not treated as a secondary suffix in IUPAC nomenclature. It is used as a regarded as a substituent. Now for example, CH3OCS3. The IUPAC name is methoxymethane. So it is considered to be methane where one of the H is substituted by RO or CS3O. It is called as methoxymethane. So if you got CS3OC2H5, so there are two different stems. One has one carbon, the other has two carbons. So we find out you use the longer carbon chain as the root name. So it is an ethane. What kind of an ethane? Where one of the H of an ethane is substituted by a methoxy. So it is called as methoxyethane. So if there are 2 carbon and a 3 carbon system, larger chain is 3 carbon. So it is called as what? Ethoxypropane. So this is the way in which we name the ethers. So it is named as a substituent only, as a locant. Another few old names has to be remembered. One is diethyl ether. That is a common ether that we use in laboratory. Diethyl ether. It is C2H5OC2H5. That is a common ether that we use. Similarly, anisole. Anisole is benzene ring OCS3. It's called anisole. It is methoxybenzene. Benzene ring OC2H5 is called phenitol. It is ethoxybenzene. So these are two important aromatic ethers that we come across, and these names have to be necessarily known because we will be using them in the case of certain reactions. Okay. So you got symmetrical ethers, unsymmetrical ethers and aromatic ethers. So these are the 3 different classes of ethers. So we must always remember that. Now when you talk about ethers, one interesting thing that you must know about ether is it has got a COC bond. So by and large it is a stable compound. It is a highly non-reactive compound. Therefore ethers are used as solvents in organic chemistry because it is inert in nature. Because it has a COC bond, it cannot form hydrogen bonding. Therefore ethers have got low boiling point. So ethers are chemically inert, they have a low boiling point, therefore it is used as an universal organic solvent. So most of the organic compounds are dissolved in ether, and because it is inert, it does not react with any molecule. Because it has a low boiling point, it can be removed immediately after whenever required. So this is an interesting feature of ether. So diethyl ether or the common ether is one of the best organic solvents. Now another interesting thing that you must know is ether, as I said earlier, is a very important what? Organic solvent. But it has a small problem. When you leave a sample of ether open, it undergoes aerial oxidation to form a highly unstable, dangerous compound called a peroxide, organic peroxides. These peroxides are highly unstable, and whenever you try to heat a sample of ether contaminated with peroxides, it can lead to what? A violent explosion, and because ether is highly inflammable, it could lead to very tragic accidents. So always ether should be tested for what? The presence of peroxides. Or generally what we do is, to a sample of ether we always add a small amount of concentrated sulfuric acid. Why? Because if at all there is an peroxide that is formed in the molecule, will get converted to stable ethanol. So always a sample of ether is mixed with a concentrated sulfuric acid and shaken before use, because if at all there is a peroxide that is formed in the molecule in the species sample, it gets converted into what? Stable ethanol, and therefore no tragic accidents take place. Okay. Now when we talk about ethers, the most important thing that we need to know about ethers is its synthesis, and Williamson synthesis is the most important thing that we must know in the case of ethers. So it is a method of synthesizing ethers very easily. Williamson found out an easy method to prepare ethers using sodium alkoxide. Whenever a sodium alkoxide is treated with an alkyl halide, the RONA is Na plus and the Cl minus of the alkyl halide goes off, and it results in the formation of an ROR dash. So RONA plus R dash Cl results in the formation of ROR dash plus NaCl. So this is the Williamson synthesis of ethers. We can synthesize any ether using Williamson's synthesis. For example, if you take CS3ONA plus CS3Cl, we get CS3OCS3. If you make use of CS3ONA and C2H5Cl, we get CS3OC2H5, etc. So this is Williamson synthesis. But one important thing that we must remember in the case of Williamson synthesis is we cannot use tertiary haloalkanes to prepare ethers, because a tertiary haloalkane is CH3, CH3, CCl. When you treat it with C2H5ONA, C2H5ONA is a strong base, and therefore C2H5ONA is C2H5O minus and Na plus. C2H5O minus will easily extract a hydrogen from the CH3 and to form C2H5OH, and the Na plus will take up the Cl minus, resulting in the formation of an alkene. So tertiary haloalkanes cannot be used to prepare ethers with what? Sodium alkoxide, because C2H5ONA is a strong base. Instead of forming an ether, it forms an alkene. So this we must always remember. So whenever you are going to prepare such kind of ethers, instead of taking CH3CCl, we must make use of what? CH3CONA and C2H5Cl. Now we have already said that ethers are generally chemically inert. They do not show too many reactions. One interesting reaction that is shown by ethers is its reaction with HI. Whenever HI is added to an ether, the ROR, one of the bond breaks, and it results in the formation of an ROH and an RI. So this is a very simple and only reaction that is commonly found in the case of ethers. So when you treat CH3OCH3 with HI, we get CH3OH plus CH3I. Now in the case of a symmetrical ether, where both the alkyl groups are same, it does not make a difference. But if it is an unsymmetrical ether, for example, if you take C2H5OCH3, when you add HI, so there are two possible products. Either it could be C2H5OH and CH3I, or it could be C2H5I and CH3OH. So the bond can break at A or at B, and resultingly the H or I can go at different places. But here, because iodine is a large atom, whenever the cleavage takes place, iodine always prefers to go with the smaller alkyl stem. That is, if you take C2H5OCH3, the iodine will always go with CH3. So the product will be C2H5OCH3 plus HI gives you CH3I and C2H5OH. So if you take C2H5OC3H7, iodine will now go to C2H5. So you get C2H5I and C3H7OH. So iodine always prefers to go with the smaller alkyl group. Now there is one exception. That exception is with what? A tertiary ether. Suppose you take CH3CO-C2H5. Here the iodine is found to go with the larger alkyl stem and not with C2H5. The reason for this is, in a tertiary ether, the cleavage will take place in such a manner that it results in the formation of a more stable carbon cation. So you get CH3 and the C will be plus, and you get C2H5O minus. So therefore C2H5O minus will take up the H from the HI, and iodine will go to the the larger alkyl group. The reason for this is the more stable carbon cation. Not only that, we know that a carbon cation is sp2 planar. Therefore the steric hindrance which was earlier there is now less. Therefore iodine can easily go and attack it. It is a simple nucleophilic substitution type of reaction, and the attack can be from either sides. You get a racemic mixture. Okay. So this is an interesting thing. So iodine will go with the smaller alkyl stem always, but only in the case of tertiary ether, iodine is found to go with the larger alkyl group. Now anisole, we said earlier, is what? Methoxybenzene. So methoxybenzene when treated with HI, the smaller group is CS3. So you get what? Phenol plus CS3I. If it is of phenetol, it is benzene O-C2H5. Smaller group is C2H5. So you get what? C2H5I and phenol. So this is the most important thing that you must know in the case of ethers. Now when you talk about aromatic ethers, in an aromatic ether, the benzene has an OR group. We know that OR groups are activating groups by resonance. Therefore it is what makes the ortho para position negative. So in the case of ethers, aromatic ethers, it is an activating group, and therefore reaction takes place, all electrophilic substitution reaction takes place very fast, and the main point where the reaction takes place is either ortho or the para. So if you try to brominate an anisole or methoxybenzene, you get what? Ortho-bromo or para-bromo anisole. Okay. So this is the interesting thing about the electrophilic substitution reaction shown by ethers. Ethers are activating groups, the alkoxy groups are activating groups, and they are ortho-para directly.